Good morning. I need the dinger today. Good morning. It is always so wonderful to have this lively group together on Sunday morning. It just feels like you've been away from each other for too long and need to catch up on a lot of things, and that's absolutely beautiful. Thank you for being here. Thank you for all that you do in this community and beyond. My name is Tony Fisher. I serve this congregation, the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Greater Naples, as minister, and gratefully so. I am most of all grateful for, as I just said, each one of you for all that you bring to this community, all that you do here in the various committees that we have. There are so many opportunities to participate. And I want to also express my gratitude for our coming-of-age youth who are here and there. Exactly. And for sort of framing this service for us. Our coming-of-age youth, if you do not know, is similar to undergoing a bar bat mitzvah in the Jewish community or a confirmation in the Christian community. An opportunity to delve a little bit deeper into our Unitarian Universalist values and directions, and also to engage in some combined work of service and commitment to the congregation. So it's a wonderful part of our religious education exploration program, and we're grateful for them to have helped frame this service, which is this morning about gun safety, gun violence, an important topic for all of us, I think. For the moment, however, first of all, I do want to welcome those of you who are watching online. Good morning. It's great to see you. If my sister's watching, I'm sorry I haven't called lately. Hello to everyone out in the pavilion. It's great to have you out there. It's a beautiful day. So let's take a deep breath and center ourselves for this morning's service with the prelude. The things in this world we prize the most are not things we have created ourselves. They have been handed down from those who have come before. We are only part of a long chain of people, and like those before us, our job is to create a link to the next generation, caring, teaching, modeling the important values we have been taught, so that those who come after us may receive them more solid, more secure, and more widely accessible, and more generously shared than we have received them. Let's join together in the chalice lighting words you'll see on the screen and in your order of service. May this flame stir our hearts and remind us of our mission to be truly welcoming, to grow in mind and spirit, and to widen the circle of peace, justice, and love. And let's rise as you're willing and able. Join in singing our opening hymn, number 40, in the gray hymnal, "The Morning Hangs a Signal." Please be seated. Before I invite Catherine Cunningham up to join us, I do want to explain that we're having our riser, our squeaky multi-sectional riser, replaced with a permanent platform up front here. And you may see that I'm a little bit shorter than usual this morning. I quipped to somebody this morning, we're not doing high service today, so it's just very low service. So Catherine, please come on up. Catherine is joining us because when our coming of age youth were discussing what topics they wanted to have addressed in the services they attended this year, the issue of gun violence was one of the ones that garnered the most votes. And you, Catherine, as a local leader in the effort to create some gun sense in this state and in this country, and a new member of the congregation, were a natural candidate. So welcome. I'm glad to have you with us this morning. Catherine Cunningham.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It's always a joy to be here. I love this community. I'm delighted to be here. I don't actually consider myself a new member anymore, but I've been here a few years now, so yeah. I might be newer than some, especially. I was sitting next to Patty this morning. She said she's been here for how many years? 47? 37. So compared to some, I'm new.
There you go. So what is your role within the issue of gun safety, gun violence? And you're wearing a Moms Demand Action pin, so that gives you away a little bit.
Yep. I didn't go full T-shirt, but I decided for the pin this morning. So I've been involved with Moms Demand Action for many years now, about a dozen, since the organization started after the Sandy Hook shooting in 2012. So that was the point where I really jumped in with both feet, got involved in the gun safety movement. We started our local chapter of Moms Demand Action after that shooting. I was the first local lead here for a couple of years, and since then I've transitioned to be the legislative lead for that group, and I've been doing that for the last many years, since about 2018.
And so why you? Why did you get involved in this movement? And because we talk about values here a lot, what values were there in your heart that sort of moved you to do this work?
Yep. So Sandy Hook was the pivotal moment for me. I had followed the issue before that, but when Sandy Hook happened, my kids were in kindergarten and preschool. And so at that time, I thought I was just compelled to get involved. They were my number one priority. I wanted to keep them safe. So I got involved at that time. And that's when we started our local chapter of Moms Demand Action. And for me, I think it also went back further to high school. When I was in high school, there was a shooting in an elementary school near my high school in the northern suburbs of Chicago. And I still remember running home from school that day with my closest friend. We were literally running home from school afraid that there was an active shooter in the bushes on the way home from school. So that was something that I think led me to follow the issue my whole life. So when Sandy Hook happened, I just felt compelled to get involved.
Yeah.
And the question of values, when you asked me that question, I thought the first values that come to mind are the values that UU shares. Peace, justice, and love are the ones that really come to mind. Love for my kids was the key thing that drew me to this movement. Anger at Congress for failing to act. Fear for my kids' safety. And I love the framing of this conversation as freedom and responsibility. We hear a lot about freedom, especially in Florida. But we hear a lot less about responsibility. And I think freedom without responsibility is really just chaos. One person's freedom tramples on other people's freedoms. And I think we have a long way to go. We have a lot of work to do on elevating the role of responsibility in this effort. And so I'm grateful to you for framing it that way. I love that framing of the issue.
Good. So how many of you, it's been a while now, but how many of you participated in the March for Our Lives here in Naples in 2018 after the Parkland shooting? So a good number represented here. I know a number of our youth at that time did as well. And at that moment, we had a very active Students Demand Action, or I don't know, March for Our Lives organization here. Is there still something going on locally with our youth?
So it's a great question, and yes, we did have a very active students group. It was one of the highlights of my work with this movement for the last many years, is working with students. Michaela O'Brien was the leader of our local March for Our Lives and then Students Demand Action group, and she has now graduated from college. So that's one challenge with students groups, is the students eventually grow up and we need new students. So at this point, there is no local lead for our students group, and we could use some new students to get involved.
So I know that something happened after that event, after Parkland. What successes have we had? I mean, if you would share, and sort of locally within the state and perhaps nationally that you can point to.
Yes. So I would say our greatest successes have very closely followed tragedy. In the state of Florida, our greatest success was immediately after Parkland in 2018. That's the first time that we had legislative success in the state of Florida to promote gun safety. And it was really the Parkland kids, right? The Parkland kids organized immediately. That shooting happened just by coincidence a couple of weeks before the legislative session ended. And the Parkland students, they galvanized people to get in buses, drive to Tallahassee. They showed up in the thousands, and they really demanded that our legislators take action. And it was critically important that the families who were directly impacted came together and they unanimously agreed on a set of policy changes that they wanted to see happen. And they were able to get that done. So they were able to drive resources to school safety, resources for mental health. They raised the age for all gun purchases in the state of Florida to 21, and they prohibited bump stocks. If anybody knows what bump stocks are, it's kind of amazing that was ever even controversial, but amazingly, we still see it as a controversial issue. The most important thing that happened in that Florida bill is that they, in my opinion at least, is that they included a red flags process so that firearms can be temporarily removed from people who are a danger to themselves and others. So Florida was actually a leader in that. We were one of the first states in the country to enact a red flags process, and it happened in the immediate wake of Parkland. That's the only time we've been a leader on gun safety, to my knowledge. I've now lived here 12 years. Nationally, we've also seen that that happened most recently in 2022. We saw the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act pass, and it passed in the immediate wake of the Uvalde and Buffalo shootings. And in the federal legislation that we saw enhanced background checks, we saw the closing of the dating loophole, we saw dollars be allocated for community violence and intervention programs. So we saw, among other steps, so we saw a number of positive moves in the federal legislation, while we still have a lot more work to do.
And what do you think is the biggest obstacle to this change? I mean, we think about this as a no-brainer, you know, at least I do. I mean,
right.
But what do you see, and how will this change in administrations impact your work?
Right. The change in administration will be hard. And I would really say the biggest obstacle in my mind is the belief among too many people that gun violence is inevitable. The hopelessness that we could ever change this is, I think, the single biggest obstacle. People think, well, there's nothing I can do. For me, I look at it and think it's a no-brainer. I think obviously there are things we can do to make our community safer. I look at the data from other countries and I just think this is clearly a cultural issue. It's something we can change. The new administration will bring challenges for sure. We're going to see rollbacks of gun safety laws, gun safety legislation, gun safety regulations. They're going to take a number of steps that we will view negatively. I look at it and think there is hope, though. As we see some of those changes happen, my hope is people like you, people like this community, people who care about their kids being safe, are going to be galvanized to take action. Just because we saw a Republican sweep of our government doesn't mean that people don't still care about keeping their kids safe, keeping each other safe, building a safer community. So my hope is we'll see people get involved and take action.
One of the things I was looking online and as we were getting ready for this, and seeing that it's still true that over 85% of the population believe there should be universal background checks. Over 85%. That means way across, political divides, there's consensus on this issue. So it seems we should be able to leverage that as one of the issues we might actually move on during this administration. I don't know how you feel about that. It's
been the single issue I've prioritized as the top issue I've focused on for the last 12 years. And because it has such popular support, it's the thing where I look at it and feel like our government is broken, that we've failed to address this, even though there's such broad support, even among Republicans and independents across the political spectrum. At some point, we live in a democracy. Our elected representatives have to listen to us. The key is trying to get people connected to raise their voice. When I first started walking into my congressman's office on this issue, I started after Sandy Hook, so 2012, 2013, 2014, and some of the first conversations I had, I don't know if anyone even remembers Kurt Clausen anymore, but he used to be our congressman, and he told me I was the first person who had ever visited his office on the side of gun safety. He said he only had heard from the NRA. or from gun rights supporters. So what I heard was Florida is a Second Amendment state. The people are strong gun rights supporters. There's no hope for you. And I thought, I need to bring more friends. So.
And friends are important, because one of the things you talked about as we sort of prepared for this is the sustenance, the value you get from not being alone in this. Obviously, you have people who have been involved in this for their own reasons. Talk about some of those folks that have really sort of helped keep your spirits and your motivation up.
Yep, that's, for me, the most meaningful part of the work. I've made very close friends doing this work. I've made friends with the kind of people who think we should build a more peaceful world. It doesn't get better than that. I don't know if Heather's here. Heather, if you're here, if you'd raise your hand. There she is. She's in the back. She raised her hand kind of a little, so it would be hard to see. But Heather and I drove to Tallahassee. It was a delightful trip. It's a long way to Tallahassee. You get to know people well for 7 hours in the car. People like Heather are drawn to this place too. I think those values of peace, justice, and love, I've noticed some of my closest friends in this movement have come, and some of them have moved on to bluer areas. But Susan Cohn and Kim Craig, both local leads with Moms Demand Action After Me, both were drawn to this place as well. Gay Valamont is somebody who ran for Congress against Matt Gaetz in the last election. She was our former Florida our former Florida lead, so she was the head mom in Florida. She's gone on to run against Matt Gaetz. She's a joy to know. I'm sorry she did not succeed in her race against Matt Gaetz, but she's going to get another shot at it because there's a special election coming. She won't be running against him, but she'll be running again in another special election. She brings joy to me. At a national level, too, there's Shannon Watts was really the head mom who got it all started and led to this movement of more than 10 million supporters. And she's really inspired people to never give up. Gabby Giffords, too, is someone I find is an inspiring leader at the national level.
Yeah. And I know you talked about hoping that Gabby Gifford might be able to come here and sort of
I hope.
We'll stir us up a little bit, too.
I hope. Yep.
What about,
the invitation's out there.
What about some young leaders in the movement? We have youth here.
Yes.
Yeah.
The young leaders are some of the most inspiring. That's, I think, where there's been some of the most reasons to hope as we've looked at this movement and how it's evolved over time. David Hogg is somebody who has been involved since Parkland. He recently graduated from Harvard. He started his own organization called Leaders We Deserve. They're focused on electing young people to office, young progressive candidates. He's looking at local races, state races, as well as federal races. He's not just looking at Congress, but he's looking at state houses, particularly State House in Orlando he focused on this year. So that's a really great strategy, and I'm expecting it's going to pay off in the long run. I'm sure they didn't win every race they invested in this year, but over the long term, I expect him to find great success with that strategy. So that's something I'm excited about. The other person I would say is in Florida. Maxwell Frost is the first Gen Z member of Congress. He was previously the national organizing director for March for Our Lives. And he's now in Congress, and he's there. He's going to keep fighting. You know, the last election was dispiriting for many of us, but Maxwell Frost will still be there. He'll still be fighting for gun safety. He'll be fighting for other issues that young people care about. So he's somebody who I think will be exciting to watch.
Awesome. I mean, that for me, I think that there's a little hope there that these young people are doing it. They're engaging in our democracy, they're engaging in the work, and that just sort of helps a little bit, you know?
Me too.
So we have to sort of close with the important question, I think, which is what might we do as responsible citizens, when dealing with this issue, and what might our youth do to help in this process as well?
I would say the most basic thing is to do what you always do, is show up. Show up and help in whatever way you can, support whichever organization speaks to you. Moms Demand Action is just one of many. Dads are welcome, grandpas too. Students Demand Action, obviously, we've seen enormous growth in Students Demand Action since Parkland. We've got over 800 groups across the country, which to me is super hopeful. We'd love to see a strong local group here as well. You can go on our websites, momsdemandaction.org or studentsdemandaction.org, to find out more about how to get involved. There are many other organizations. I touched on some of them: Leaders We Deserve, Giffords, March for Our Lives, Brady, Sandy Hook Promise. The gun violence prevention organizations, some focus on different aspects of the problem. But I would say get involved in whatever way works for you, whichever path speaks to you, or if you don't have much time, you can take action in a few minutes. That's one thing I think Everytown does very well, which is affiliated with Moms Demand Action, is just to say there's a bill coming up, and if you have 5 minutes, please call your congressman and ask them to vote on this bill.
Everytown USA?
Everytown for Gun Safety.
Everytown for Gun Safety. So all you need to do is Google that.
Yep.
And they keep providing ways for people to act in,
Yep.
in the moment.
We'll text you. I know you've all gotten way too many texts in the last few weeks, but...
Yeah. I mean, I think, we are known for showing up. And I think that's one of the things that historically this congregation has done. And I think, first and foremost, we'll be ready for the call. But I love the idea of just taking a moment, looking on Everytown and seeing what's coming up. It doesn't have to be local. And we don't have to wait
Right.
for a disaster to happen in order to sort of put our weight as citizens and exercise our responsibilities as citizens to sort of help make change. So I want to thank you. Well, the other thing that I spoke to Catherine, and I've spoken to a few other people about this as well. I think one of the things that we need to do as organizations involved in sort of progressive ideals, peace, justice, and love, to sort of put it in those terms, is to take a little step back and to coordinate and to really talk about how we can better serve. Each organization can better serve the other, how we can support. I mean, I think there's been a good coalition of these groups locally here for a long time, but I think we need to step up our act. I think we need to do some real deep strategy, because we know that on the radical conservative side, they've been working on this agenda for a long time, and so it's going to take some real work. And I think moms and UUs and NAACP and other organizations sort of need to sort of have a conversation about how can we be more effective in speaking to the people we need to speak to.
Yep, exactly. And I think the other side has money behind it. So I think we have love on our side. I do still believe that love wins.
It is the most powerful thing in the world if you put it into effect.
I still believe that. Yep.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So let's take a deep breath, remain seated, and join together in singing our centering hymn, Circle Round for Freedom. We'll sing it twice through.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle. Circle round for freedom. Circle
We keep in our minds all those who die every day of gun violence. Of the over 48,000 people in the United States that were impacted by the deaths of people, 48,000 people in this country last year by gun violence. For the many children who died by gun violence, the leading cause of death among children under 18. And we take this moment also to be aware of each other and our individual joys and sorrows, those things that lift us up, and those things that weigh us down. This is our time of sharing. If you have an individual joy or sorrow, I hope you raise your hand. I'll bring you the microphone. Let us know your name and what's in your heart. I really would appreciate that we keep this in terms of personal joys and sorrows this morning. There's a lot to talk about on other planes that we haven't had a chance to share with one another in the past couple of weeks. So joys and sorrows. Anyone like to share this morning? Oh.
Hi, my name is Evelyn Kuntz, and the joy is we're so happy to be back. We watched you last Sunday. It was a fabulous service. And my sorrow is that I just lost two best friends in the last 2 months, and that's a tough one.
Thank you, Evelyn.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Diane Keys. I have a sorrow. One of my coworkers, we call our coworkers our cohorts. She went for her birthday to Orlando for the Halloween Horror Nights, and she was crossing the street and she got hit by a car. She went up in the air and came back down, and she hit her head on the windshield. So she was in the hospital and wasn't responding. On the 14th, they disconnected the life support, but they were able to give 8 of her body parts to, as she was a donor, to others to live on. So just keep her in your hearts, please. And also my sister, who was diagnosed with breast cancer, she did her first chemotherapy, and it hasn't been going too well. She just hasn't been doing well. She's due to go back this week. So please keep her in your hearts. Her name is Dahlia. Thank you. And we have guests that came, Dimitri and his wife. I know, but they came before. And
Absolutely,
we were here.
yeah. Ray?
Good morning, I'm Ray Eddy, and I am celebrating a short visit with my sweet, adorable, darling son. Yeah, Peter's now living in Bogota, and so we don't get to see him too often, but we do enjoy it when we see him.
Thank you and welcome.
I'm Steve Dilley. I have a kind of a strange joy. My son had brain cancer for 18 months, maintained his personality, was warm, friendly, talkative, But on October 20th, 2024, it finally got him and he passed away.
Steve, thanks so much for sharing, and just our thoughts are fully with you.
I'm Eleanor Richardson, and I have a great joy that my life's companion, Peter, who's going to be embarrassed, is going to turn 85 this Thursday. So please say happy birthday to him.
I'm Cynthia Scher, and I have two sorrows today. One is my very good friend's husband passed away on Wednesday. His grown children are really struggling with it. It happened quite suddenly, even though he'd had some mental health issues as well. And the other one is to please keep the town of Greenwood Lake, New York, in your prayers and in your thoughts, because they've been going through wildfires, which is totally unheard of, and parts of the town have been evacuated, and I have some good friends there as well. Thank you.
Cynthia.
My name is Joanne Husky, and these are hard times we're all having, but here's a joy that maybe will help you. Last night I saw a play called Every Brilliant Thing, and it's about a depressing subject, but in the play, the guy named every brilliant thing he could think of, all the amazing, wonderful things that there really are still. And it really gave me some joy to think about. Just make a list of all the good things. And there are so many. And he had the audience yell them out. And it was just really powerful because we're all dealing with so much sorrow right now. But so if you could flip it for a moment, just start making a list of every brilliant thing.
Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you. I'm Skip Lundborg. Many of you know Joanne Womack. She had a fall this week, some busted ribs and hospitalization, and she'd been caring for her husband John for a number of years. So we hope that you will keep them in your thoughts this week. There may be ways through the care team that you can be of assistance. Joan Leary is the coordinator of the care team.
Thanks, Skip. And our thoughts are with you, John. Let's join together in the spirit of meditation. Spirit of life and love, grateful and humbled by all that has been shared and all that has been left unspoken. For losses, for concerns, for visits, for every brilliant thing. Let's sit here in this space and hold each other gently. We come together, called by a longing for community, or for a need for calm, or by something we cannot fully name. We come as individuals, called to hold ourselves accountable to our highest values. to be reminded of our best selves, and to remember we are not alone. We join together, called to do our part in weaving a web of human community. Here, now, quietly within these walls, and to find the courage, strength, and compassion. Continue to weave that web every day as we journey forth from here. Gathered here in this moment of silence, may all that stirs within us be a blessing on our day, on this community, and may our collective blessing extend to grace the wider world. Let's share some time in silence.
Good morning. I'm Patty Friedberg now, but I was Patty Demarest in 1987 when I joined this congregation. Have you ever slept on a bad mattress? One that just does not fit your body? You wake up in the morning with a horrible backache, hardly able to get out of bed, and you're unhappy because once again, you did not get a good night's sleep. This goes on day after day, week after week, month after month, maybe years. And then finally, one morning you wake up and you decide to buy a new mattress. It may be expensive, but boy, it will be worth it. Like many of you, I was not pleased with the religious choice that was made for me as a child. I was baptized, I had my first communion, I was confirmed in the Roman Catholic Church because my father was Hispanic, and Catholicism was a non-negotiable part of the culture. My mother, who was reared a Protestant, a Methodist, became an atheist after the death of her first child. I tried to attend Mass as a freshman in college, and then again as a young teacher when I arrived in Collier County, but it became very clear that Catholicism just was not for me. I didn't feel trapped, however, because I knew it was up to me to find what I was looking for. Naples was a sleepy fishing village in 1972 when I arrived. I did find like-minded people, however, in the Collier County Democratic Party. Yes, Collier County was 50% Democratic in those days, believe it or not. And by 1974, I had married and had very much become a part of that political community. 10 years passed, however, when I had my first and only child. I then knew that I needed to find an ethical, spiritual community in which to rear my child. I had found like-minded friends, but it just wasn't enough. I now had a child living in this world, so the search was on. Fortunately, my then husband, who I'll call my husband, Robert Demarest, is that a good term? You like that? Husband? Yeah. So my husband, Robert Demarest, was head of the Collier County Public Library System. And one of his best employees was Harlene Richardson. I loved her the minute I met her. And then one day she mentioned, just casually, that she was a Unitarian. And then I knew why I was drawn to her. My mother had been very interested in Unitarianism, but had never acted upon it. So I realized that this was my opportunity. And I felt that Harlene was my spirit guide. She invited me and my daughter Lauren to visit this congregation. Funny thing was, she told me, and we came in August, and in August, in those days, Unitarian churches were closed so their ministers could study. So I had to wait a few weeks. But we came, we experienced, and we never left. That was in September of 1987. We had found a place where people respected the freedom of each one of us to choose our spiritual path, where people acted upon their values, not only within this community here, but in the outside community and beyond. And they saw their responsibility as a congregation to bring up the next generation. My daughter was only the second child in this congregation, the first being Emily, the daughter of our pianist, Carol Jensen. Reverend J. Abernathy was our first minister. It was his wife, Eileen Schlemmer, who taught the children each Sunday. After Lauren, there came one more child, and then another, and then another, and then two more, and then four more. And suddenly, one after another, we had many groups of RE with parents alternating in doing the teaching. I taught a lot of RE in those days. And then I was a volunteer co-RE director with my very dear friend, Debbie Andrzejewski Johnson. We did it for 3 years. And during that time, that last year, we helped plan this building and the RE wing. I do still teach RE. I am a member of the Weekend Meals group, and I am currently the Youth Education Exploration Chairman. All those children have grown up. They're in their late 20s, 30s, 40s. But they are filled with the love and support of this group of people. At age 40, my daughter still considers herself a UU, and she always attends service with me and my husband Charlie when she is here in Naples. When living in Manhattan, she attends All Souls. Once you find a spiritual home like this one, you know that it is your responsibility to do everything you can to help it thrive and grow. I never once second-guessed my decision to join this congregation, to give as generously as possible, and to participate fully. Help us keep this UUCGN mattress fresh and firm. Because you know what? There are a lot of people out there with achy backs, and they're seeking relief. Thank you.
And just a quick word, at some point I'll turn around and you can join singing. This is 10:10, We Give Thanks. It's in the Teal hymnal. And I'd like us all to join together after the first 2 verses.
So no, I'm not going to do a full homily this morning. It's about the time I should be starting the announcements. But I'm grateful for Catherine and Patty, too, for bringing forth the idea of responsibilities that go with freedom. Patty talked about the freedom that each one of us has to choose our spiritual path, which involves reflecting deeply on the values we think are most important and figuring out then how we're going to act on those values out in the world. As Unitarian Universalists, we agree to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning, language that is present in our National Association's Articles of Incorporation. Our free and responsible search for truth and meaning, embracing our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. And each of our speakers this morning talked about the responsibilities that come with freedom, the importance of teaching the next generation the best of what we learned together, the importance of not just holding those values in our hearts and minds, but figuring out how to translate those values into meaningful relationships and meaningful work. And the word relationship is critical. Part of being responsible in our search for truth and meaning is understanding that ultimately we need one another to understand this world, to understand how we are connected, to gain greater perspectives from each of our experiences. Our spiritual journey has much to do, or even more, with being responsible to our relationships with these people around us and with all the people that exist in this world than does our individual outlook on life. It means doing some good self-work so that we can have a foundation from which to wrestle with the difficult issues like gun violence and gun safety, and deciding about the responsibilities that go along with the reality that in our nation people have the right to own a gun, but also in our nation people are dying from gun violence. What responsibilities do gun manufacturers have? What responsibilities do gun owners have? And what are our responsibilities as citizens in the conversation that's become so important with that continuing rise of violence? What responsibilities does the government have to monitor and protect innocent citizens from gun violence? As Colin Goddard, who survived the 2007 Virginia Tech shootings, wrote, "We have to challenge any politician who thinks it's easier to ask an elementary school teacher to stand up to a gunman with an AR-15 than it is to ask themselves to stand up to the gun lobby with that big, fat checkbook." That's a moral challenge, and the issue is a moral challenge. Second Amendment to the Bill of Rights makes an important statement that provides for individual rights, but that Second Amendment does not stand alone and must not be taken out of the context of the entire document, the most magnificent document of governance that's been created to this date, which begins, we the people of the United States, in order to form a perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution. The government of the United States, those elected officials statewide and nationally, have a responsibility to honor the entire Constitution, not just one amendment, and to legislate for the common good. I had a whole bunch of statistics to share with you this morning, but you can find those just about anywhere when it comes to gun violence, and they're horrific. The relationship Our relationship to guns in this country is just insane when you look at all the other wealthy nations in this world. We have 25 times as much gun violence in this nation as those nations do combined. Who are we? And who do we want to be? Which is our responsibility as citizens to make known. We try to instill in our Unitarian Universalist children a wonder for life. We teach that each and every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity and love and compassion, to live full lives. We teach them to be just and equitable and compassionate in their dealings with one another. We offer them roots of a loving community and wise guidance so that they can take wing when they're ready. We teach them that all things are connected and that what we do in the world has consequences beyond our comprehension. So it's important that they be mindful in all that they do, caring for life to the best of their ability. And we teach them to see that when they see injustice, when they witness cruelty, they are called to act. We can't ask of ourselves any less than we ask of our youth. If we wish to live a life of integrity, we need to understand that there are not just good thoughts to pass on, but demands upon each one of us as citizens. This has always been a part of our tradition, finding ways to live our values in the world. This is not a passive tradition, not a passive faith. For us, faith is a verb, a call to strive for a moral life in a moral world. And while we can't respond to every issue all the time, we need to be ready to respond when leaders like Catherine let us know when it's time to act. And to do our due diligence and find out what we can do to keep that flow of citizen pressure on our government to make change. Nelson Mandela, who spent many years as a political prisoner in his own country of South Africa, but who was freed to become president and lead that nation towards change, said, "With freedom come responsibilities. The two can never be separate." Mandela understood that his journey, his ultimate success, depended on a whole community of people. And he also said that what counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It's the difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the life we lead. There are so many issues for us to pay attention to respond to, and sometimes it seems overwhelming. And sometimes it's clear. We are free people. We have responsibilities to keep that freedom for ourselves and that freedom to live for so many others. The words of Mandela ring in my ears. With freedom come responsibilities. What significance will our lives have as we journey forward together? The morning's offering for the ongoing work, beautiful work of this congregation will be gratefully received. All right, quickly. An interesting forum after the service today with Peter Bergeron covering the election results. Should be really interesting. Nancy, Carol, and Al Curran are going to be in the conference room. If you have questions about our Chalice Circle program, if you want to sign up, look for them. I think there might be a room conflict, so we'll figure that out too. Out in the lobby, you noticed a Christmas tree as you walked in. That's our giving tree. Children at Youth Haven have provided information about what they might like to receive for Christmas. Somebody will be there to guide you through that process, but grab a tag and buy a gift. I think that's really it's a wonderful program for Youth Haven. I want you to know that there's an issue that we need to address as a whole. Our silent auction needs more people to step up and offer services or events. Otherwise, we won't be able to hold the auction, and that's a significant fundraiser for our congregation. So we need new people that maybe haven't done this in the past, to talk to Elaine, talk to Martin and Larry. Raise your hand. Talk to David Sleeper. See what it's all about. But please, if you have a dish that you'd love to make for people, have a few people over and make money for the congregation. So really important that people do this, and we'll let you know about dates as we move forward. On Wednesday, we'll continue our world religions study with a look at Hinduism. And a week from tomorrow, Interfaith Thanksgiving on Monday the 25th at St. Monica's Episcopal Church. I'll be taking part. I hope some of you will come and join us there. So, and Sean has an announcement. Next week.
Yes, a week from today at 4 o'clock in this room, there will be the first of our concert series. This is featuring the Nautilus Chamber Players, which is the chamber group that Abby and I started a couple years ago. And we focus on music written after 1900. So there are a lot of things off the beaten path that are quite wonderful. The concert is called This Earthly Round, and it's sort of reflections on impermanence, which I don't know about you, but I think is a good thing to think about right now. That this too shall pass. Anyway, there are the members of the group are mostly faculty at FGCU, music faculty, and there are 7 of us performing, and 3 singers, some great woodwind players, and it's going to be a really wonderful concert. Please see Steve out in the foyer or on the or Martha to talk to them about getting tickets. There's also a QR code on the poster out front here in the lobby. So thank you very much. I hope to see you there.
All right, and let's rise and sing. It's late, but I need to sing, so I hope you do too. Number 121 in the great hymnal, We'll Build a Land. The words are on the screen.
We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land can be. Come, build a land stand her people. Oh, come build a land, my people we see. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever flowing
Stream. Go out into the world in peace, have courage, hold on to what is good, return to no person evil for evil, strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the suffering, honor all beings. Have a wonderful day.